minus 5 turned into plus or minus 20.
Linux OTC. Welcome to episode 66. I'm Bill.
I'm Eric.
I'm Majid.
And I'm Leo.
All four of us. When's the last time this has happened?
Well, I was going to say, it's the conjunction of the spheres, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
It's good. It's good. I cherish
Yeah,
these
it's been
moments.
a while because, 2 weeks ago... Yeah, because 2 weeks ago you crapped out on us with your server upgrade, which actually was a very important server upgrade. But
it was.
Still, yeah.
And I wasn't. I was a little worried.
And then and then Leo's been hung over for the ones beforehand.
Oh yeah.
Well.
So
I had to finish the
Eric's
bottle. I don't know
the
what
only
to
one
tell
with
you.
the proper excuse. Eric's the only one with the proper excuse. I mean,
Leo's living the La Vida Loca.
I
right?
knew you was going to
That's
say
right.
that when you started saying, look. Leo is living a lot of vida loca. The only thing you needed was a bottle of Patron to start drinking after you said that.
Oh no. No. Not Patron.
Okay,
No,
these are
not
Hispanic
Patron.
jokes that I don't get.
It's tequila.
Oh, that wasn't why I said it. I didn't even make the connection. Thank you. I was just being dumb. You guys put more thought into it than I did.
That server upgrade, though, that kind of had me. I was up to my neck in that because what I decided to do.
Did you put RAM into it?
Well, no, I changed the motherboard out because I was using some old ThinkCenter M93 boards, and they're fine. They're like 4th gen DDR3, and they did the job fine, but they did not have ECC RAM support, which I thought was important. And so eventually I came across these super micro boards on eBay that have all of the same, they're from the same generation and all that. So the 1270 version 3 CPUs that I bought, Xeons, would work in it. And the ECC RAM, the same ECC RAM that I bought for the ThinkCenter boards would also work.
So how many errors has that RAM caught? And how much uptime have you saved?
I don't think it has ever been.
You're never going to check it, Bill. Bill, you're never going to check it.
I'm not. No, you're absolutely right. This is.
You just want it to want it, and that's okay.
If I had to be honest, yeah.
Well, I mean,
suppose.
there is a thing about, why did you climb the mountain? Well,
Because
the
it was
mountain was
there,
there.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
Because I did that.
To be fair to
recently.
myself, if this would have been an exorbitantly expensive upgrade, then I wouldn't have done it. But it was the board. I could
you
basically
probably could have. You probably still would have.
less than $100 per board. I bought 3 of these things, and all of the same.
Not
components.
expensive.
Well, look at some server boards. I mean, like proper server boards, they can get up into the thousands.
We are moving the goalposts
you know.
real quick of expensive, Bill. We're
I mean, yeah.
it was only a few
Yeah, I mean-
$100.
Yeah.
I mean, it is getting insane, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is absolutely
No, Bill-
crazy.
Anything
Bill's
with
right.
DDR3
It's like
is the only way
It's
to go
safe.
right now. Because it's the only RAM. The DDR3 is the only RAM that is not like quintupled in
Nope.
price. Nope.
Nope. As soon as memory prices started going up, I doubled the DDR4 memory in my desktop. And that was it. Now DDR4 is not as much as DDR5, but it has gone up like
Yeah,
200-300% from where it was.
I mean, it's insane. I mean, what was it? If you wanted to get a 64 gig of DDR5,
$900.
so,
$900.
Yeah, over $1,000. It's more expensive than a MacBook Pro or MacBook Air.
Oh,
or whatever is
the comparisons I've seen are to an AR-15. I don't know what they're like talking about. I don't know what idea
that
they're
was
pushing here,
that
but
was
you
such
can buy.
a Texas analogy. I cannot even. Tell
Oh
you.
yeah. I'm telling you, dude. Yeah, I do live here in Texas.
I get an
and-
AR-15 for that much daggum old money right there.
Not just one barrel. I get 2.
I get an extra barrel too. By golly.
That's right. I get
That
the
seems kinda
sight
perverse.
laser. I get the extended magazine, boy.
I
you
get the
what.
30-round magazine banana clip tied to my
Oh.
belt.
That's right.
Country ass. Man.
It seems
Better
like
believe it.
we're living in a bit of a backward world whenever firearms like that are less than computer memory.
Oh
But
yeah.
hey, what do I know?
You get it, Eric. I'm just saying, what are you
I
gonna do with 2 guns?
well, you can.
But
I mean,
you're right, Bill. You put server in front of anything when it comes to hardware, and all of a sudden it's like putting
Yeah.
wedding in front of a cake.
Oh,
You know, it's like, oh, that cake would have cost you $20. Now it's going to be 200. You know, like
but at the same
that's
time,
because
if you're willing to go back to DDR3 and
oh
fourth
yeah,
gen,
I'm
you're
not.
going to use more
Nope.
electricity in some cases. And no, it's not quite as
it's a
optimized, but
In
it's
Bill,
listen. This is a
not in
temporary
some
thing.
cases.
it is.
This is a temporary thing. Everybody's going to freak out. The price goes up because of demand. You tell someone they can't have it, they want it. And it's going to be a short-term issue, and then it's going to go away, and we'll
Yeah.
all go, oh, I remember when memory was so expensive. It happens all the
Eric,
time.
Do you think so? Do you think
You're
so?
too optimistic.
I
These
do.
prices aren't going to
I
come
do.
back down. No, they're gonna.
Yes,
They
they
No,
will.
may, maybe
it's not.
maybe just a
No,
little
they
bit,
will.
but they're not coming
They
back
will.
down to
Yes, they
2024
will.
prices. They're not.
Well,
Yes,
I
they
don't
will.
think they'll come back to 2021 or 2020 prices, but I think they will. Once everybody realizes, hey, wait a minute, they're not using that same RAM in data centers. That's something else. Why is it so much more expensive? I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, but
They're not coming down. They're not coming down.
well, what do you think? I mean, they've
Slightly,
got to
yes.
come down some because they can't.
Why? People are still building them. Why would they come down?
I think we're just
Well, you're also
liquidating stock that
Are
already
people still
exists.
paying the money for it?
You're also forgetting that this is going to be this generation's memory. Something new is going to come along. It's going to trickle down. The
DDR.
demand
Don't say
for
that phrase,
these
Eric.
data
Don't say that
centers,
phrase to me.
the demand for the data centers is gonna slow at least a little. And I'm telling you, like it's right now in this moment, the hype, the fact that the companies don't care, all they want to do is compete, and they're willing to put as much money behind it as they have, basically.
They don't have
And
it. They don't have that money.
it's artificial. It's
Yeah.
all artificial. It's like them buying the NVIDIA GPUs and warehousing them
Well, they're buying
so long that
RAM.
by time
They're buying RAM that doesn't exist to put into video cards that don't exist, using money that they don't
right,
have to put into data centers that aren't built.
right, exactly.
It's all
And
fake.
that's
I get that, but we
But-
are still, as consumers, buying that RAM off the shelf. I don't think the prices are going to come down anywhere
But
near
listen.
where we would agree that these
We've
are
got
affordable
two
prices
data
or anything
centers
like
near
that.
me, and let me tell you
Yeah,
what's
we
happened
got
in
one
both
coming up.
cases. It doubled the electric bill for the one's
They promised it
Amazon, the
wouldn't
other
do that,
one's
Bill. I
Google.
don't believe you. I don't believe you,
doubled
Bill.
the
They
electric
said it
bill.
wouldn't happen.
Yeah, well,
No,
it
no.
did, and
yeah, and who's paying for it?
the people that live around there,
Bill?
and
Yeah.
they
Bill
build
is.
them in less than prime real estate to begin with. So you're not talking about people living around these areas are living paycheck to paycheck, and they really couldn't afford. And I mean,
Because they couldn't fight it.
and
How are they
no,
gonna
they
fight it?
couldn't.
With what money?
It's made the news, but I mean that's just a little bit of noise,
Well, and think about
No, that's just to let you know that you're about to get cancer. That's it.
Yeah,
we
that
just had
too.
that cold we just had that cold snap, right? And all the snow and everything. And my power bill was an extra $50 this month because I had to run my heater, which I live in an area where I'm not supposed to need a heater. So it's the least efficient way to heat a house you could think of. It's that strip that's basically a glorified hair dryer, in your heat pump, and so
That's
it
so
ran
alien to me.
continuously for like weeks because our houses aren't insulated. It's not built for that. And so, I'm paying an extra $50 for me isn't the difference between food or, a choice I have to make. Whereas for someone else, like your power bill is more, that's like this, it's kind of killing me right now that this whole fallacy of like, we're going to electrify our vehicles. We're going to build all these data centers. Everything we use is more and more electricity. We refuse to build nuclear power plants. Like, where is this coming from? Like, we don't back renewable energy. We don't. I mean, you can't just produce electricity from nothing.
Well, let me.
Let's put up
Haven't
another
you guys
gigawatt.
got huge? But haven't you guys got all this shale gas and all this that the
Leave it in
Only
the ground.
that's the only
Majid,
change denies?
Majid, don't encourage them. Leave that shit in the ground.
No,
one of the
I
things-
agree, but I'm just saying that there are
Fracking
ways.
is a
It's just
nightmare.
whether they are. Where there are sensible ways is the question.
Fracking
Well, okay,
fracking
so the
destroys the land for 1,000 years. This land is going to be completely useless,
Oh yeah,
and
I
so
agree. I agree. This is why fracking is almost impossible in the UK. Nowhere,
yeah,
even the most right wing places are not going to do it because we're a
yeah.
small
Well,
island. There's only so much
well, we're
space.
dumb.
To,
We're dumb. Someone has the mineral rights for a piece of property, and they're like, "How much?"
yeah,
They,
oh
you know,
yeah,
they don't think about, oh, this is going to destroy the groundwater. It's going to,
well,
basically
Eric,
make this land. Yeah,
yeah, because
to
that's not your problem in it. That is your grandchildren's
exactly,
problem, and by that
exactly.
time,
That's someone else's
exactly,
problem. Yep.
yeah,
No,
someone
so
else.
one of
we
the
have an
The thing
industry that
about
is
the thing about
they
heating.
the industry has done a good job of convincing normal people. That's the most polite word I can use. Normal people that this is the necessary thing in order to
salt of
maintain
the earth.
this is what's necessary to maintain your standard of living that you've been, that we've come to get used to in
You
America.
Right.
got accustomed to, yeah.
Yeah. And so to go against that is in some way un-American. And that's the brilliant lie that's been told, and the reason why there's just not as much pushback against these things in America
I have
as there.
neighbors. I have neighbors down the street are from Oklahoma. They
Oh
couldn't sell their
no,
house because of earthquakes. Earthquakes in Oklahoma from fracking and like
it's not from fracking,
disturbing the
Eric.
tectonic. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
No, you get it
So
right.
they it
It's
took them
from the
like 3
Democrats.
years to sell their house, which was a really nice house in a great part of town, and and they were here just like, they didn't want to live there anymore because it was scary to them to like have these tremors and their house is shaking and but yeah, you're right, it wasn't fracking. It just started happening, you know, coincidentally whenever all that. It never happened before, but just coincidentally it
Oh
started
yeah,
happening right
oh
around
yeah.
that time.
Alternative facts, my friend.
Uh-uh.
Alternative facts. We live
That's
in a
right.
post-truth world. But
That's
just
Mm.
true.
going back a bit about, energy prices in the UK are astronomical, and this is, it is a big thing that every winter, people do, especially pensioners on a state pension, really do have to think about whether to warm their house or whether to, buy specific foods. Do you know what I mean? And it
Hmm.
is,
Yep.
which then, but then what happens is you then kind of get into this bit of a vicious cycle because then what happens is the government then starts giving benefits to those people. So the energy companies have no incentive to decrease the price because now the really poor people can still pay for it, and you just end up making it even more unaffordable for everybody else. And
Yeah.
you just get into, as I said, you just get into, and then obviously if you're giving benefits out, then the government has to get that money from somewhere. So where does it get it from? It gets it from, whether it's direct or indirect taxation. Do you see what I mean? The
Oh yeah.
only people who
Listen,
win is the energy company
is the
or Russia.
lobbyists that
You
are
know what I
paying
mean?
the politicians? Oh yeah, gee, that how can that work? Yeah, don't get me
Yeah.
started on that. I just, there is so many levels of things that are unfair, and the burden comes down to the people who are least able to withstand it, or to carry it. So it's I was watching a thing last night on Las Vegas about how normal people don't go there anymore because they don't want normal people there anymore. They don't want people that have $100 to come in and sit there and get a free drink. And what do they care about those people? They want the people that can come in and plop down 50 grand a bet and hand, and arrive in their private jet for a week for the F1 race that shut down half the town and inconvenienced everyone who lived there. And it's just I have great memories of going there 20 years ago with my family and I mean, it's hard to believe that, Vegas is a family thing, but all the shows and it was just an
The
interesting place to be.
shows.
They were cool.
Wink, wink.
And I mean, you could see well, no, not those shows. No, it was a true family
Yeah, on an
gathering.
audio podcast again, we now have great video with Leo winking suggestively.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, yeah, and then
Audio
basically the
podcast,
thing
remember?
is now, they just don't care about normal people anymore. They're like, you know what? Go somewhere else. We want the rich people. That's who we're going to cater to, and therefore, you know,
That's been
Tough
the
luck.
gotcha game. So like the idea of a gotcha game where you spend money and you pull and it's random and all this stuff and it's basically just gambling over and over and over again. A lot of those games are made for about 100 people. Like hundreds of thousands of people
Yeah.
play it, but the 100 people that complain that spend thousands of dollars on these games a month or whatever, that is the way that these
Yep.
games are catering.
The
Um,
whales.
yeah, though that's the word right there. The whales get catered to,
Yeah.
and everybody else just gets to enjoy it or not enjoy it or
Yep.
whatever. But
Well, my
it's
wife
not for
also
you.
made a really good point. We've legalized sports betting here, which is
Mm.
essentially means you can bet on anything at
It's
any
so
time,
gross,
Yeah, yeah,
dude.
yeah.
and
It's
it's
so
and
It's
it's
gross.
massive. It's
everywhere. I
massive
mean,
here
when
and in India as well.
your halftime report is more about the betting
Yeah,
than the actual game itself, which is just I stopped watching. I can't take it. It's just disgusting to me. But our point
Majid.
is basically you don't have to go to Vegas anymore to bet. So why would you?
Yeah,
So
Majid.
anyway,
I know you watched the Super Bowl. So did you see the amount of sports betting commercials on in the Super Bowl? It was well.
It
Also,
was
the amount of
there was loads, man.
wait. You actually watched it?
I didn't watch all of it, but I did watch some of it because
Wow.
I was
Okay.
actually interested. I was actually interested to see how the game would go. As I said, I
Oh,
kind of got a little bit into American football this time round. I mean, not this time
wow.
round. I've always found it quite interesting, but I can't watch a full game. I
Oh
have
no,
to kind
no.
of either watch bits or I watch highlights or something like that because it is the most stop starty of all games I've ever seen.
No,
Within
it's
you can have a game that goes on for 3 hours
it's
and the
painful,
highlights are
brother.
12 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
No, no.
painful.
I think yeah, specifically for you, I totally get it, right? Because when people give themselves CTE or whatever, you're like, oh man, I do that, but with chemicals, They're sleeping on the field. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, but yes, no, yeah, I agree. Gambling here as well. Although, I suppose because it's Europe and things like that, there have been some curbs on sports betting. So the major football, the Premier League, the
Lucky you.
football league here can't. They have to get rid of all of their sports betting sponsors. Or they can no. Let me get this right. They can still be sponsored, but they can't advertise. So you could still be sponsored by a casino, but you now can't have Genting Casino on your shirt like you could before, or
Oh,
Sportsbet or 888.com or whatever. So you find that a lot of so therefore a lot of the uh, major clubs, or actually it was never really the major clubs, it was always the kind of the intermediate tier that you used to find, especially a lot with the Chinese betting kind of apps and stuff. They used to really target those kind of the equivalent of a middle income football team. I mean, I don't know how exactly, but basically because they would give money, and these would be people that would want the money so they could get the better players because they needed to move up. They weren't already at the top echelon and they're already getting the sponsor money and they're already got the players, and they're not at the bottom that nobody's interested about because who gives a crap. Although having said that, Ryan Reynolds and his mate have changed that in the UK after they bought Wrexham and brought them from like the fifth division. Well, they actually went up 8 divisions, but it was called the fifth. Don't ask me why, but yeah. And then made TV programs about it, and now it's become a thing. You're finding that all of these big money owners are coming looking for not a startup, but like a small regional team. They're going to put loads of money in, and then they're going to put a documentary about it, and then they're going to sell the rights to Netflix and all that sort of stuff. So that seems to be a thing. But anyway, how did I get here? I was talking about betting, wasn't I? Yeah. So yeah, you find that from next year, apparently, all the betting, they have to be their logos have to be taken off and all this kind of stuff. So, and that came on from legislation around underage gambling. There was more and more reports that teenagers and stuff like that were getting
yeah.
involved in this
Y'all
kind of
started all
stuff. And
that
I mean,
stuff.
yeah, it is a. I mean, can you think of a perfect storm? Teenagers of nowadays, with the way that they are with their phones and stuff like that, and then
Yep.
betting. I mean, it's
Just constantly, and it's programmed with the constant notifications to ping you, and
yeah,
hey, don't forget,
yeah.
there's this, oh, it's vile. It is truly like disgusting, and of course, somebody paid somebody enough money, so we overturned the law, and here we go. It wasn't a gradual thing either. It was literally they turned it off, shut off they repealed the law, and literally, like as if they had been waiting at the door, like
They
just
were.
you
Mm.
saw everybody come out, and then all the celebrities behind it, and like the money. I really dislike
Yeah.
it immensely. Anyway, yeah, the reason
Speaking
you
of
got there is because this is OTC, right?
yeah. No, I was just gonna say, speaking of mountains that you climb just because it's there, I had a bit of a Linux related mountain project, which is so I can't remember if was it on the OTC? No, it was on Mincast. One of these check these out things. There was this thing about somebody had made a tri-boot phone, a phone that ran AOSP Android, had a Windows 11 ARM build, and had Linux on as well. And I saw the video and it was interesting. And then the version of Linux that the guy was using was Postmarket OS, which is based on Alpine Linux.
Mhm.
And I saw that one of the supported devices is the Lenovo Duet Chromebook tablet, which you can get now on eBay here for about 60 quid, 70 quid. It's a tablet with a keyboard and all that. And so, next project was bought that, and I spent 3 days trying to shoehorn Linux onto it. It was good fun, actually. It's good fun. Now that I've done it, though, it is a bit kind of like, okay, now what? What am I actually going to use this
I was gonna
for?
ask if you actually used it for anything.
Yeah,
No, you can like you can
so
Velcro it to the wall and put some stats on it or something, and just kind of let it blink and
I'll
have
tell
pretty
you one
pictures
thing
on
though.
it.
I'll tell you one thing though. Uh, the one thing that I think we've all talked about, I mean, I know Eric's talked about it with his Dell Latitude and stuff like that. Battery life on these kind of two-in-ones is never as great when it's on Linux. I mean, it's probably because it's an ARM chip that's in this Lenovo Duet tablet, Chromebook, whatever. But the standby life is brilliant, I must say. You can just I can leave it for days, and then
Well, it's
open
one
it
or
back
the
up and
other.
it's lost maybe two.
Yeah, you either get really good battery life or you get really good standby time, but never both. That's the Linux curse.
Why is that?
You got power management. I mean,
Genuinely,
for
genuinely asking. I'm
yeah, in
I think
various
it's the
hardware, the
variety
power
of
management
hardware.
is not great. Well,
Yeah. And
and the
I just
support
think it's
for
the
that.
sheer variety, honestly. Like there's
Yeah.
if it was also if there were more hardware manufacturers that focus specifically on Linux, that's where you really start to get the benefits of like, the individual pieces of hardware themselves being, built with that thing in mind, and then the
Yeah.
kernel, being targeted at that, and the distributions also, so you have like all of those things coming together, and we just don't have that, and
But it's
honestly, for
super
most
simple
people,
because
I think it's
if you zoom out, you have manufacturers that write drivers for Windows. And
mhm,
on Linux, unpaid volunteers are writing drivers for Linux, and you're lucky if they just happen to have the same hardware you have, and then it's got support, and the driver's written,
yeah.
and it's added to the kernel, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's just that, yeah, there's
it's
no
inter-
focus.
it, it's interesting you mentioned about hardware. So, does anybody else listen to the Linux Matters podcast? Popey and Wimpress and anyway,
Yeah.
their last episode, Popey was talking about how he is in the process of setting up a kind of, I don't want to call it a web portal or a website or whatever about Linux hardware, because so often people want to get something, but then they're not sure what the Linux support is like. Random errors might happen with this, that, and the other. And so he details it a lot in the episode. He said he'd have the website live, but he hasn't actually got it live yet. But it sounded quite good because what he was basically saying was it wasn't about it wasn't about hardware vendors that sell Linux devices. It was about the compatibility of common or widely sold machines with different, mainly with Ubuntu, and then kind of extrapolating onto other Linux distros. And he was using kind of like the information from the certified Ubuntu program that Canonical have or had or whatever, which I thought was quite cool actually. You know, he was
So
like,
it's like
I'm not. He's like, I'm not including Entraware. I'm not including System 76 because you know what you're getting there, and you know everything's supported because they're selling the damn thing. It's when you find a offer for a, I don't know, an Asus ZenBook, and you think, oh, that's brilliant, and then you bring it home, and then you find out that the touchpad doesn't work or something. That
yeah. So
kind
this
of
is
thing.
like Steam DB for hardware, laptops and desktops and things.
Yes, yes.
I think it would be a
Yeah.
That's pretty
Herculean
cool.
task to pull off, just because there's so much stuff out there. I mean, if there was like a
Yeah.
few different models of machines that Linux people are known for going out and buying, that'd be one thing. But I think there's just an enormous amount of stuff out there.
ThinkPad?
I mean, I have seen a website called linuxhardware.com. I know because I
The
remember
Arch
I was
Wiki's got
looking.
some of that too. It just none of it is ever
No, because
anything that I'm gonna get.
so the reason I mentioned about the Linux hardware one, it's kind of the wrong way around. It's basically it's a thing that you can run on your device which you've put Linux on, and then it will then update to the database that this configuration works all right,
Oh,
if you know
okay.
what I mean. That way around, because the only reason I know this is because I remember I said I bought that Lenovo Yoga AMD Ryzen AI whatever, and I was just a bit thingy about, well, it's a relatively new AMD chip, is it going to be all right, you know? And I was pretty sure it'd be all right because generally Lenovo things are, and it wasn't bleeding edge like Snapdragon or Panther Lake, you know, it was about 6 8 months old, so I was pretty sure it'd be fine. But then, and so I found this. As I said, I found the website. I might link it in the Discord for you guys to have a look at. But and it was like, apparently, it was a utility that you run on your machine, and then it feeds it back to the database, so that now you know you can then see that this configuration will be fine. Because I do find there are some manufacturers that have generally worked well with Linux. I mean, Lenovo, we all know because of the ThinkPad line, but also the others. Dell, historically, Dell even had Ubuntu versions, wasn't it? You could buy something
Yeah.
with Ubuntu on it. But I find some are really bad. Acer, I always found were a ball ache. Something would be. You can guarantee something doesn't work in it. I don't know what it would be. Can't guarantee
That's
what
even on
won't
Windows
work.
though. That's just an Acer, but it also
Okay.
tracks on Windows.
Okay.
So don't.
You know, I even remember that on Acer Chromebooks. Do you know what I mean? I managed to get Ubuntu onto an Acer Chromebook once, and then the Wi-Fi card went. So here's this device which is basically dead without the internet. Without the internet, you know, need to, and it didn't have an Ethernet port either. So how's it gonna do? Anyway, I remember that. That was funny. I mean, it was annoying, but it was funny. Anyway, back to Alpine Linux. First time I've ever used Alpine Linux. I remember watching a video about it saying that it was really resource light and optimized and stuff like that. It's a different, completely different flavor in it. It's not an RPM. It's not a Deb. It's not a Arch.
I thought it
It's
was
its own
mostly
thing, isn't
for
it?
building containers with to have a really slimmed down back end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it sounds like. Yeah, which is interesting. Then that's the one because Postmarket OS supports like loads of devices. You know, compared to any of the other, compared to say like Ubuntu Touch or any of the other kind of Linux smartphone failed operating systems. You know, this one actually does seem to work on quite a lot of devices. So I don't know, is there something in Alpine Linux that makes it more compatible? I don't know.
The fact
No,
that it's
it's the
just
same
made out
kernel.
of the box to be really
Yeah,
really
it's
low intense, you know.
yeah, purpose built, and they've been doing it for a while. Alpine's been around for a good while. So
They have.
So, it did leave me with one slight, not issue, but it was more of a question. Because obviously it's a different packaging format. So, you know, you need to find, if you're looking for specific software, you need to make sure it's either in that packaging format or is a flat pack or a snap or an app image. Just as a general question, if you have a particular piece of software that you want to work on your distro that you can't get a native package for, there is no Flatpak or Snap or App Image, but there
You
is
compile it.
for another.
Compile it for source.
Okay, yeah.
From
So
source. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so so how does that work? Compiling from source for a noob.
Just
Explain to a noob
you
like
get
me who's never
you
compiled
get
from
the
source.
compiler. So there's a compiler, which is an application, a program unto itself, and it usually there are like build files that kind of give it some information around like what it is and what the requirements and that kind of thing are, and you basically point it to it and you say build this, and it will go through and literally create the executable, and depending on your system and the resources available and the speed of the processor, it can take and the size of the program itself, the amount of code and all that, the complexity, then I mean it could be 2 minutes, it could be 2 days. It depends
If
on
it's
what
a
it is.
well put together project on GitHub, there'll be like a README or
Yeah.
a build or whatever. It'll say
Yeah.
which one to go look for, and there'll be instructions. In most cases, you can copy and paste right there
a
for
lot
you.
of a lot of times on the AUR, you're not getting, or you'll see two different packages. One is like bin, which means the binary, which means
Yeah.
it's already been compiled, or you'll see the source. And if you get the source, and this is from anywhere, you can go like, and that's what GitHub is. I mean, that's the source of the program, that repository. That if there is a release, what they've done is taken the source, a snapshot of it at some point in time, compiled it for whatever system. And then of course you're going to have the different types of, if you're talking about Linux, the different
Which
file
you can do on
formats.
GitHub, by the way. Like all of these things can be built on GitHub using GitHub Actions and
Yeah.
Right.
fun automation that you can build out
And
there.
doing it
So
on their server means that it's a
right.
lot faster than doing it on your
And
own.
it can be
But if you use a
automated.
source based, yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
But if you use something like Gentoo, which I loved back in the day, I was a huge Gentoo fan. Even though it was a little masochistic, like you're, I say I love it, but it was painful. Um, because it was really cool to be able, and it made a difference back then. I think their hardware was so barely adequate, um, and you were trying to do things that stressed it to the breaking point, basically. So when you did something from source, you could set, like if you compile your own kernel, for example, the Linux kernel, there are all these different flags that support, and because it's monolithic, right? It does so many different things, the stuff that's built into it and all the extensions and everything. Like, so you can say, I want a very slim kernel, and you go in and you turn off all these flags, right? And you basically say, I don't want any of that. I only need the stuff that's specific to my machine, right? The hardware that I have, whatever. And then you build it. And it takes, back then it took forever because the machines were, pretty
Took
underpowered at that
overnight.
point. But yeah, oh yeah, it was an overnight kind of thing, definitely. And you'd build an office suite and it would take, a day,
Sometimes your updates
that
take
kind of,
overnight too, and that
right.
kind of
You just did an update, Bill.
yeah. Well, I mean that was a
Right.
thing back
Well,
then.
are you selectively updated? That's what
Yeah.
I would do. I wouldn't just do a blanket update. I would do a selective, pick and choose kind
Which
of
that
thing.
always got me to
The
thinking, you for what you're gaining in performance, because yeah, you set the right compiler flags and you can compile this software to be absolutely optimized for this machine. But then when you go to update it, for what you gained in performance, what little bit of gain you got, you're never going to be able to turn this machine off because it's going to have to
you
run all
can't you
night.
can't really think of it that way. It's more about like the actual. So while I'm using it, while I'm gaming, while I'm compiling, when I'm doing something on the machine, by having a slim kernel, it's using less resources, there's less overhead, more memory available, more cycles. And so back then on those lower powered machines, it made a genuine difference. Like you
Yeah.
could tell the difference between running, a Debian versus Gentoo that's compiled for your system. And Linux from scratch is another one where you basically compile everything from scratch, and it's more or less instructions on how to do that. And a lot of people say, well, that's your the rite of passage of like creating a distribution, as you do Linux from scratch and make all those decisions yourself and end up with a working system that took you weeks likely to, even on a modern machine, which is saying something. Back then it took like a month. But and yeah, I mean, I think it's the type of thing that honestly for you, Majid, is as something to try and play around with. Look at Gentoo, because it's everyone talks about the Arch Wiki being like the tome of knowledge for Linux, and that's absolutely true. I'm not taking away from the work that they've done on that, but the Gentoo Wiki is pretty hardcore too, and it's specific to compiling. That made it a lot easier too. It used to be the entire system. It's called stages. So you start from stage 1 and then you build up to different stages, and it's basically, the lowest level to the highest level. And if you think of like the kernel underlying everything, and then, the system D type stuff on top of that, and then,
I just want to point out real quick that Majid asked what is compilation, and Eric is now recommending that Majid install and compile his entire system.
Poor Majid's just sitting there.
He wants to be a Linux geek, so he has to hear that.
Look, I would like to point I have actually run Gentoo once, actually.
Sabian doesn't count.
But it wasn't really...
okay.
Damn, that's what I was going to say. Sabian was what I tried.
Yeah, Sabian is not the same, but anyway.
Yeah, it was close. Is just running the configuration script. So download everything from GitHub. You run the configuration script, you run the make command, you run the sudo make install command, and then bingo bango, the bin's in user bin, and you can now run it. Like that is the basic, super low level.
If it installs with C
super
compiler.
simple. Right. If it installs with GCC, but that's what the README's for. The README tells you go get this, and this, and then you can run this command. And once you're done with all that, it will have compiled and be in the right spot, so you can just call
manually.
it. No, you don't. Never update it. Bill, stop making it complicated.
But I think the idea that I won't be beholden to any app store or any distro maintainer.
This has always been the case, Majid, from the very, very beginning, from when Slackware and Debian were just barely becoming distributions.
I was waiting for Slackware to come up in conversation.
This is exactly how you would get software. Yep, and that didn't come with the distribution, right? Slackware was always meant to be complete. Like, you weren't supposed to want anything outside of Slackware, but everybody always did, and compilation is the only way to get that outside of your base repositories, outside of what Slackware has deemed correct.
And you might think that Leo's like being a little bit of a troll by saying, no, don't update it, but that's absolutely true. You set up a Slackware system the way you want it, and unless there's a vulnerability that you're aware of, you don't have to do anything. That thing
and even if there is a vulnerability, you decide if it affects you or not.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But literally, it's a snapshot, and you can run it that way till the end of time if you want to, and it'll do whatever you've set it up to do. And that's the beauty of it, is that today's modern distributions expect you to update all the time, right? And if you don't, it breaks. Whereas those source-based distros, they don't do anything without you explicitly saying, do this.
Mm-hmm.
You turn that switch on, and it's going to come on and be exactly the way you want it to be. And there's a lot to be said for that. So.
And now everybody in this entire call
said that
everybody in this entire call is now understanding why people still run on Windows XP. I just need you guys to nod your head.
Yeah.
This is why they do it.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I mean, but that...
Yeah, and the other thing is, you can...
But you were just saying that... I was just saying, you were saying, though, that the performance advantages of doing that nowadays maybe aren't as...
Nowhere near.
Pronounced as they were 10, 15, because now everything is overpowered.
Yeah, unless it's specialty hardware and it's something that really requires. But then you don't need to compile your entire system. Maybe you have a driver that you need to compile for that piece of hardware, or there's a piece of software that isn't mainstream enough. And that's really what the AUR is doing in many cases, is the source for something is available.
Yeah.
But you're not. You don't have
it's
a
transparent
binary.
though. You don't have any idea what it's doing.
It's yeah. I was gonna say, Bill, it's not transparent. It's got a manifest that you can go and check, but nobody checks.
But if you're doing
it
it with Yay or something like that, or the old Yowart,
who's not, Bill?
Exactly. So it's transparent.
Right.
You don't know what it's doing.
If you're using the AUR, you're definitely clicking the easy buttons all the way down.
100%.
If you actually cared
I
about the
don't know that
security
that's
of your
true.
software. Oh, it is. If you cared about your software, you can compile it yourself. You'd compile
No,
it
not
yourself.
entirely.
The only time I haven't done that is if I really wanted to see what was going on with one particular piece of software, and then I would go and download the snapshot and run the make pkg command and all that manually. But other than that, it's literally you just literally type yay, enter, and it
Yeah.
updates
And you
literally
still
everything.
in all of those cases, Bill, you still didn't read the source.
No,
Exactly.
no.
That's
you
what
just
I'm
keep
saying.
hitting
But
enter.
see, my point is
the
that
easy
it's not
button is there,
universal.
and people will use it.
Yeah.
I agree. For most people, they abuse the AUR because, like, Arch is way upfront about it. Like, they're like,
If you're using the AUR, you're abusing the AUR.
right, right.
And
Whereas,
by most,
if you
I
just
mean
have
99% most.
Nah, 100%.
fine, then I'm a 1%er
100%.
in something in my life then,
There
because
you
like,
go. So you're
because
doing
I
it the
always
slow
looked.
way every time.
I always looked. And I only ever needed very specific things. I didn't use I didn't like the AUR. I don't really like getting because they're never maintained properly, almost
Not really.
never, except for the bigger packages, the more popular ones. And you're taking a chance, and it doesn't feel good to do. But there were
but here's the
certainly
thing, though.
times. Go ahead.
Like with the AUR, sure, you can go look at the manifest, but when you open up the manifest, what is it doing? It's just grabbing some random ass binary off the internet and plopping it on your system. You can't
Well,
check
if
that.
that's what it is.
So even if you checked the manifest, you're not checking anything other than the URL that it's pulling it
Well,
from.
if
And as
you're
long as the
Yeah,
URL
but if
is
the binary
shady,
was-
you're installing something proprietary, then it's getting a binary. Otherwise, it's going to GitHub.
not
It's downloading
even
the
just
source and it's
proprietary
compiling.
though.
Yeah,
No,
it's not just proprietary. Yeah.
Well, okay.
No,
I
it's
mean,
a ton
If there's
of
a
stuff.
binary available, most times it's going to just do because there's
Yeah.
only
but you've
it
got the
doesn't.
choice.
There's no point.
If you want a package on the AUR that's binary, it'll say like Chromium-bin, and that you'll go
Right.
with something like that
Yeah.
if you want a faster install, because installing
Right, because you don't
Chromium,
want to compile it. Right.
installing Chromium is kind of like,
So at
Compiling
that
it's a
point, why
big,
not?
yeah.
Why not just pull some flat pack or whatever? I don't understand the difference. I
Ha.
don't see any reason why anybody would use
No,
the AUR.
exactly. What is the point anymore, right? Why bother anymore?
Okay,
Right.
because
Exactly.
there
Yeah,
are
yeah, yeah,
still
yeah.
some nuances to be had with the whole flat pack.
Oh,
When
please,
you've
let's
got-
move those
okay,
goalposts again, Bill.
I know, but when you're talking about hardware acceleration and access to hardware, and it's always hardware for me. It's always been hardware. It's always been when I've switched away from a flatpak. It's always because it could not properly work with the hardware I had, so I had to figure out some other way of getting the software. It's always been that kind of thing for me, but it does happen, and so you go back to the AUR, and then all of a sudden things start working again. It's
Now that's
using
a
the
sentence I've not
AUR.
heard that often. I used the AUR and then it worked.
Well, and
Yeah.
it does. I mean, the thing about the AUR, the way it's supposed to be used, I mean, and leaving aside the whole thing about you're supposed to look at it every single time. Yeah, we all know. But it's supposed to be a community effort where these packages that are popular in the AUR get upvoted. You're supposed to, when you install something from the AUR and you like it and it's part of your life, you're supposed to upvote these things, and then they get enough upvotes, they get moved to the community repository. And now they're being just installed with a pacman tac s command, and that's how that's supposed to work.
Yeah, but it's automated and vetted at that point. Prior to that, you're just hoping. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, the onus is always going to be on you to know what you are putting on your machine. Don't.
Yeah, but so many people don't. They don't care.
I think
Nobody cares. We
that
just
is a
yay
convenient
install.
way for them to not accept responsibility for
Yes.
providing
Them who?
Exactly.
The distribution?
Yeah.
Arch.
Or
Yeah.
Arch?
AUR if it's attached.
Yeah.
So we
I mean, it's
want,
like, here's
we
the
want
gun,
Arch to
don't
take
shoot yourself.
responsibility for what goes on the AUR.
No,
Well, that's
because
why
they
every
have
single-
said that's why it's the user repository.
Yeah.
We don't control it. If you step in here, you are taking your systems, and we are not responsible. And so on one hand, I don't disagree because it is useful for certain people but I do think it has always been abused in a way, like Leo said, where there are the best practices that literally almost no one, you know. Yeah, and the other thing that's very dangerous about it is if you're using Yay or something like that, what you install the first time, that manifest, could be completely different the next time.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody
But
may have come in and changed it, and if you're just saying, "Yeah, I don't want to look at it again," even though Yay will prompt you to look at it, and you say, "No, no, no, no," then
I
anything
just
could
want to
happen.
point out that I don't think the AUR is as far away from Arch as the Arch people want it to believe, want you to believe, because it's indicative of the entire project. Look at Pac-Man. It updates so fast, and that's what everybody says about it. But why does it update so fast?
Skips over a
There
lot
are
of
no
shit.
checks. There's no,
Yeah.
yeah, there's no checksums. There's no making sure your system's going to work after this. There's none of that. Actually, none of that. And so, of course, it just splats all the updates onto your system, and you're like, well, good luck. Have a happy
Yeah.
reboot. Hope you come back up. And I mean, for the most part, it works, right? Because it's not like we have unreliable hardware, unreliable RAM, unreliable whatever. But I mean, we've had instances where things have exploded. So, you know.
We have, but I don't think we've had as much of it as you would
How much is
probably.
too much, Bill?
I don't. But to listen to people talk, to hear how dangerous everybody thinks it is, you would think that somebody was taken to social media with some terrible problem that they had all the time. The reality is, the worst thing I remember happening was that stupid grub thing. What was that? 5-6 years ago, where
Probably now, yeah.
yeah, where it changed everybody's. And I knew when I hit YAY, I knew that was going to happen, but that was me forcing myself into a nuke and pave because I knew I was at that point behind for one anyway. But I wanted to see what was actually going to happen. Did I know how to fix it after the fact too? Yeah, probably, no problem. But I mean, yeah, that was the last thing. The reality of these things is always far less dramatic. And, to your point, how much is too much? Well, yeah, I know. In the production world, that would be probably unacceptable,
But let me tell you something. So what I'm not saying is Arch is not ready for production. What I am saying is Arch, as built by the Arch Wiki by someone that may or may not know all the tools, is a very dangerous thing to do if you actually care about your machine. Arch is ready for production if you finesse it into a container. Look at KDE Linux. Look at the Steam Deck. Look at all of these little devices that are popping up that are just also
I didn't see
using
that one
Arch.
coming.
Oh, no, no, no,
saw
no.
that coming.
Like,
I didn't see it coming.
I absolutely want to make that point, right? Like the uninitiated are going to end up really sad. But if you know what you're doing, as in a big company that's actually putting something together, that's testing it on the hardware and making sure that it actually works, and then whenever you actually update, you have nothing to do with Pac-Man, then you're in a really good position to actually have a very stable system that will last for a very, very long time.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and agree with you because let me be clear about what I mean by production. I mean, I'm not.
And there's no AUR.
If you're the person that's using, if you're crazy enough to have some sort of enterprise use case for Arch, or if you're using it to do serious work, then yeah, I think Leo has made a pretty good point right there. I think it's
Man, it looks like it hurts you to say that.
well, because I want to make sure that I'm making it clear what I mean by production.
Check the video out, folks.
I know, I got that on tape.
Because the point is, the people that use Arch, and this is coming from, I am a huge Arch user.
Really? Use Arch? Do you use Arch?
I will
Didn't
admit
know that.
it. And the reason I use it is
Wow.
because I am
A
little bit of
masochist.
a masochist, a narcissist. I like knowing that I can use this thing, and I bet I'm sorry. You people need to look deep inside yourselves. You are the same way. If you're using Arch, it's because you like to know that you are enough of a Linux ninja to use Arch. You like saying that you use Arch. You look like you like looking down on all the little people that's got their little. I got my Ubuntu on this machine. you like.
I just run
You
Mac
like
OS.
to have your little Linux minions
Bill
scattered.
sold today.
No, but really, you like having that control over your machine. You like the fact that this is something to a very large degree. It is something that you built yourself. That is the truth of it. We're not using it for the reason people use Ubuntu or Mint or any of the immutable distros. That those have.
I mean, you do have a point there. You do have a point because I mean, I was just thinking about just going back to that post-market OS build that I did. I had to do quite a bit. It wasn't just a case of flashing and the usual kind of Rufus flash an ISO and take it from there. There was all these things which I'd never come across, uname files and inits and this, that, and the other. And I felt like I learned quite a bit, and I felt a sense of achievement at the end of that. I figured out how to do it. There were some problems. I managed to sort out the problems with a little help from AI, but when it came to code and stuff. And I thought, you know what, this was
There's
actually
one less tree in the
I actually
world,
enjoyed
Majid,
that experiment.
because of you.
You're killing
That's
the
fine.
world,
I think
Majid.
there's a lot. There's a polar bear that's dying right now. I know.
Yep.
Well, good. They hunt
Gasping
people.
its last breath.
Yeah, but at the same time, actually, I around that maybe about a week or two later, I saw a video on YouTube, DT, DistroTube, and he said, he was doing his, thing of, everybody says that Arch installs are really complicated. Like, here, time it. Because we're going to do it in 15 minutes. Installing Arch. We're now, by the end of it, yes, you had Arch. You didn't have much else, though. You didn't have. I think you might have had a desktop environment, but you didn't have Wi-Fi. You didn't have Bluetooth. You didn't have this. You
But
didn't
the
have
people
that.
that are saying that thing,
Which is
that are like, oh, the Arch installs are so fast, are people like Bill that have built it 8 million times, and they're like, oh, all I gotta do is, and
I
then all
gotta
of a
be
sudden you
honest.
have an Arch.
Since Arch install came
but
out,
but there was a lot of
years
stuff
ago,
in there.
I don't know
That's
that
cheating.
I could go back and I would
It's
probably
cheating.
have to take
Go
my
back.
time to go back and do it the hard way.
Go back, Bill.
Nah,
It's
not
cheating.
gonna happen.
But just even watching that video, I felt like I learned stuff. Like
Yeah.
I learned how the discs have to be partitioned, and all FS tab and stuff. All these kinds of things. Remember, at the end of the day, I've never sat and learned anything about computers. It's entirely self-taught. It's always been so. I've always got very scattergun information. So like I think the point of yes, I know what a flat pack is and I know what a snap is, but I wasn't entirely sure what a compile from source was. Do you know what I mean? I have a very scattergun understanding. So sometimes if you do a project, you have to kind of systematically go through something and figuring out all the separate bits, that actually you then learn quite a lot that way.
Do yourself a Gentoo install, you'll be good to go. Because you got to fill
No, you
out.
won't.
You got to make your fstab from nothing. You gotta make your host name file, your host file.
I know it's a it's a what, not a meme, like a, I don't know. I learned, people say, oh, you use Arch and you learn a lot about your system, and that's true to an extent, but Arch has become quite automated and like, the installer, like it's a lot
Doesn't have
easier
to
than it
be.
used to be. But no, it doesn't have to be. But if you do something like Gentoo or Slackware or something that's a source-based distribution, you really got to know like nuts and bolts, about your system. And you also learn more about like what's in your computer, like way more than just like, oh, there's a graphics card and a, memory and stuff. Like there's a lot more than you understand about a system until you start doing that. And I do credit doing it. And I wouldn't say, oh, it's so much fun and you can do it all the time, but I do credit learning so much about computers just from the exercise of needing to gather that information, put it in properly, and, making a mistake and you're like, oh man, I didn't do that right. Like you gain confidence, you learn so much from it. And that's why people say like it's a recommended thing if you're just learning it and you have a genuine interest to have like deep knowledge. That's a good thing to do. That's why I did Gentoo in the first place. And then I found out, oh, I really like this. Oh, and my computer's faster. No, this is look at all this information in this wiki,
In
and I never knew you could do all this.
1999, to be clear.
Exactly. You're right. That was then. That it was actually like 2002, but you're right. It was very much that era. And downloading things, oh my
So
gosh, on a dial-up connection and hoping you didn't get disconnected and like
Also, why you never updated.
yeah, totally
That was
different
back
world.
when you was waiting on the
Totally
disc to
different world.
come with what was that magazine?
Free 1,000 AOL hours.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How many of them are still
Yeah.
sitting around?
Oh yeah.
I want one. I guess we had gotten rid of all of the ones since I was a
What was
kid.
the
I
one
would
I
love to
used?
have another
You had
one.
Net Zero and Juno back then
Net
too.
Zero, that's the one I loved.
Yeah.
I loved
Yep,
Net Zero,
yep.
yeah.
Because
I
you could
liked
Net
I
Zero
liked
was
Juno.
easy because you could spoof your MAC address and then sign back into the free Net Zero, and they would think you were anyway.
I liked Juno for a while because so there for a while the free dial-ups would like have it would
Juno was
put a
good.
little application on
Yeah.
your desktop and it would just stay there whatever, it's like scrolling ads. Juno
Yep.
was the easiest one to get rid of that application on the desktop.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I don't remember
Yep.
how it was done, but yeah, I do remember that.
Oh, and that
And
was the era of download managers and toolbars in your
the
browser.
toolbars.
And
You remember
Yeah.
going to somebody's
Oh,
house that was
gosh.
having
Gross.
trouble with their computer, and they'd always
6 deep, baby. 6 deep.
Oh god, yeah.
like, how are you?
How many
Don't look
searches
at
do
the
you
page
need?
anymore.
You only got about this much space to look at a website.
Like,
Oh, that's not
Why is
supposed
my
to be there.
connection so slow? Well, you're loading 1,000
Yeah.
ads.
Yeah.
Oh
Your
gosh,
connection is fine actually.
they'd
Yeah.
have one from
So
Yahoo.
actually, things
from-
haven't changed in any way, shape, or form, have they? Really?
It's been in shitified. I
No.
mean, when you can't shitify it one way anymore, you got to find another way to.
You know what?
shitify
You
it.
could actually argue that the success of the internet and computers, home computers and all that is simply because the advertising companies wanted, a faster system so they could shove more ads down the pipe.
Yeah.
It's so grotesque, but like you could easily argue that.
Yeah,
Ugh.
all hail Gore Hill. He'll take care of us until the end of his days.
Oh,
So that
this has
Gen
been a
2
good
thing,
one.
you guys did Gen 2 on your other show, Leo, not long
Galaxy
ago.
Space. You had that. I remember you had that
Yeah.
compiling thing in the back that we could use.
Well,
Was kind of like,
yeah.
this is my Gentoo box here.
Yeah, he had the
Yeah, yeah.
fast
We
fetch
would
running
start
on
a
that.
compile right before every episode for a while.
Well,
and,
did you guys
yeah, I
do
mean,
the?
it just
You don't have to compile your kernel. That's
Yeah,
kind
you
of
can do
optional.
stages.
there's
Yeah.
a binary kernel that you can pull down.
Yeah.
So I think I compiled that kernel one time just to do it, and then I went back to the binaries because
I couldn't get it to
it
work.
wasn't really the kernel. Oh, really?
Yeah. Well,
I don't
maybe
know.
I didn't know what
It's
all
been
I
over a
needed.
year now. Yeah, it's been over a year now, so I forget the tricks. But the thing it wasn't really the kernel that was the hardest thing to do or the longest thing to do. It was like compiling the languages like Ruby and like WebKit GTK that backed up GNOME Web. Like those were the things that actually it turns out on a lot of those videos, those are the two things that are actually compiling in the background the whole time.
Just to have
It feels
GNOME
pretty
Web.
cool, though.
Like, maybe
Yeah,
I
pretty
don't
much.
need GNOME Web. Oh, but it's part of the meta package. Oh, crap. All right.
Yep. Yep.
Jeez. Oh, well. Yeah, so what are you trying to install from source, Majid? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, it's just a cloud sync thing that I've got.
Oh, my.
One of the lesser known ones, which doesn't have its own app. Well, it does have its own app, but on Ubuntu and Fedora and Arch, but not on Alpine, it seems. And there's no Flatpak or Snap or anything like that for it either.
Yep.
So
So,
it's,
yeah,
it's
I
not
mean,
it's,
grab
it's not
the
exactly
toolkit,
mission
compile
critical.
it.
Yeah.
Well,
So
good luck.
that's an hour. Wow.
Oh, are we at an hour? My God, we are at an hour. Well, shoot, folks.
Yeah. See, ain't time fly when you're having fun.
It does. It really does.
Trying to convince Majid to go to Gen 2.
It's worth giving a
Just
try
once.
if only in a virtual machine, but if you've got a regular machine to devote to it, it's
Oh yeah, no, virtual machine is.
I mean, to be honest, the first thing I thought, if I was going to do something first, I'd do an Arch install first, like a bare bones Arch one. And if I can manage that one, then I thought about a Gen 2 one. But as I said, I've got these big, massive gaps in my knowledge. Do you know what I mean? So I don't.
Oh,
That's why I've
So
kind
Arch
of.
is
That's why even though I've thought about it, I've never done it.
the beauty of Arch, and the reason I would say that's probably the better option, is you're not having to compile things. Like everything's already binary blobs. So if you want to see what compiling something's like, just pick something. It doesn't matter. Anything that's open source, you're going to be able to get the source code, figure out what they need in terms of the requirements, and try to pick something that's not too complicated. And then just see what it does. I mean, like Leo said, you basically make and then make install, and I mean, make is where it's going to compile, and it takes, as long as it takes. And it's kind of neat, I think. It's like a boring version of the Matrix. Like you're basically just watching it scroll by, and you can kind of pick out like what it's doing and where it is, and then it'll drop to the prompt, and you do make install, and it'll put your binary in the bin directory, and then you have to create a desktop file because it's not going to do that for you if you want it to be in your menu, and like so you kind of figure out, and it's just neat to see like what is the package manager doing for me, right?
Keep the directory that you compiled it in. Make sure it's got it. Put this stuff in its own directory, and then compile it from there, and then run a make clean command when you're done, and then keep it, because it'll be a pain in the ass to uninstall it if you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you'll have to go through all of because make install knows where to put everything, and then you might have some stuff in /lib, then some other stuff in /usr, and if you don't keep that compiled directory with those instructions or whatever it is, when you go to uninstall it, you'll have to go and find every single file and delete that manually without that compiled directory, without the instructions.
Make install is basically a lot of like CP commands, like you're copying stuff, to different, and some of them are pretty simple. It's just going to be, the binary and then maybe a configuration file, or like, not a lot, like something in ETC or whatever. But like then there will be ones where it's like literally there's
just
crap
scattered
everywhere on your system. Yeah. And if you don't care, like if you're going to wipe that system 6 months from now anyway, then like, not a huge issue. But yeah, Bill's right. I mean, it's not a bad idea too to just keep, because you're not going to see it in a package manager. So if you want to know like where did this version of this program come from, it's not in my my software manager. It's not a Flatpak. It's not it's none of these like things like how the hell is it on my system? And if you keep a folder with a list of like the ones that you've compiled manually, you're like, oh, okay, I did this myself. So just something to think about. Ooh. It's none of it is required. That's the thing. Like Linux today is so easy. It's like
yeah. I mean, as I said, I don't need to do any of this. As I said, it's the mountain. The mountain is there. I'm deciding to climb it.
Right.
Just and also something you're going to run in. I don't know about Alpine, but if you go to try to install something from source, like if you just install Mint and then you download something from source and you try to compile it, you're going to run into an error where it doesn't. It's not going to be so clear, but you gotta install the base development package, or I don't know what it's called.
It's still Build Essential.
Build Essentials, that's what it is, and I don't know if you get that by default on a
not
base installation.
You don't.
So you'll have to
because it brings in a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
it's a lot of extra stuff you don't need. Yeah.
Normally you wouldn't need it, but if you're going to compile from source, you'll have to have it. It's base-devel on Arch, and it's Build Essentials on anything Ubuntu based.
Yeah, Build-Essentials.
Yeah.
But Majid's on Alpine, so I don't know what it's
You'll
called.
You'll have to find out.
Whatever the APK for that is.
Yeah. Find out.
Yeah. Anyway, let us know what you think, folks. Hit us up on the socials. We're on Mastodon and what is this other one? Discord. As long as you don't have to upload your ID to it, you'll be fine. Email the show.
Just upload Majid's ID.
Yeah, they got it anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold up a picture of Majid.
If you put that, you'll get a free trip to Cuba and a complimentary orange jumpsuit.
Maybe don't use Majid's.
Nice. Okay.
Yes, maybe
There's something we should know.
Oh,
Just
anyway,
saying.
it's so
Mohammed
sad.
Majid, that's money.
Oh, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, I'm Bill.
I'm Eric.
I'm Majid.
And I'm Leo.
See you, folks.